His fist connected with the first man's throat before anyone could blink. The second attacker reached for his weapon too slow. Marcus Thompson's elbow shattered his nose, sending him crashing into the concrete wall. The third man froze, eyes wide with terror. He'd never seen anyone move like that. "Run," Marcus said quietly. "Or don't." The man ran. Behind him, a 7-year-old girl clutched her bleeding mother, screaming words that would haunt him forever. "Help my mom. They beat my mom." But here's what nobody knew: the woman bleeding on that parking garage floor had destroyed Marcus's life 2 years ago. She had fired him, ruined his career, called him dangerous. Now he was the only thing standing between her and death. Comment below what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. This story is just getting started. The scream cut through the underground parking garage like a knife through flesh. Marcus Thompson heard it before his brain could process what it meant. 8 years as a Navy SEAL had rewired his nervous system. Sound meant threat. Threat meant action. Action meant now. He dropped his toolbox. The metal clanged against concrete, echoing off walls that smelled like motor oil and old cigarettes. "Help my mom. They beat my mom." A child's voice, high-pitched, terrified. Marcus was already running. His work boots pounded against the garage floor as he rounded the corner near the elevator bank. What he saw made his blood turn cold. 3 men in expensive black suits stood over a woman crumpled on the ground. Blood trickled from her temple, staining her silk blouse. Her designer purse lay scattered, contents spilled across the dirty concrete. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, knelt beside her, tiny hands pressing against her mother's face. "Mommy, Mommy, wake up." One of the men laughed, actually laughed. "She deserved this lesson," he said, straightening his tie like he'd just finished a business meeting. "Maybe now she'll learn to mind her own business." Marcus's vision narrowed. His heart rate dropped. The world slowed down the way it always did before combat. "Hey." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. All 3 men turned. Marcus stood 15 feet away, still wearing his maintenance coveralls. Grease stained his hands. Sweat darkened his collar. He looked like exactly what he was, a working man at the end of a long shift. The tallest attacker smirked. "Walk away, janitor. This doesn't concern you." "The child concerns me." "I said walk away." Marcus removed his work gloves slowly, deliberately. His scarred knuckles caught the fluorescent light. "I heard you the first time." The tall man's smirk faded. Something in Marcus's eyes, something flat and patient and utterly without fear, made him hesitate. "You don't want this problem, friend." "I'm not your friend," Marcus said. "And you don't know what I want." The second attacker, shorter, thicker, with a boxer's build, stepped forward. "Let me handle this." He threw a punch that would have dropped most men. Marcus wasn't most men. He slipped the punch by 2 inches, caught the man's wrist, and twisted. The snap of breaking bone echoed through the garage. The boxer screamed, dropping to his knees. The tall man reached inside his jacket. Marcus closed the distance in 3 steps. His palm strike caught the man's chin, snapping his head back. Before he could recover, Marcus drove his knee into the man's solar plexus, then brought his elbow down on the back of his neck. The tall man collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. 5 seconds. 2 men down. The third attacker, the one who had laughed, backed away, his hands raised. "Hey man, wait." "Run," Marcus said. "Or don't." The man ran. Marcus was already kneeling beside the injured woman, his movements shifting from combat to medical response without pause. He'd done this 100 times in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in places whose names he wasn't supposed to remember. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The woman's eyes fluttered. Blood matted her blonde hair. "Stay calm. I know how to stop the bleeding." The little girl grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Is my mommy going to die?" Marcus looked into her eyes. Brown, terrified, desperate for someone to tell her the truth. "No," he said. "I won't let that happen." He pulled supplies from his back pocket. Always carried them. Old habit from the teams. Gauze, tape, pressure bandage. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, applying pressure to the head wound, checking her pulse, monitoring her breathing. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Olivia." "Okay, Olivia, I need you to do something for me. Can you be brave?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I need you to hold your mommy's hand and keep talking to her. Can you do that?" "Yes." "Good girl." Marcus pulled out his phone, dialing 911 with one hand while maintaining pressure with the other. Underground parking garage, Sterling Tech Building. Woman with head trauma. Conscious but disoriented. 2 assailants down, 1 fled. Send ambulance and police. He hung up before they could ask questions. The woman's eyes opened fully now, struggling to focus. Her gaze found his face, and something strange happened. Recognition. Her lips moved, forming words he couldn't quite hear. He leaned closer. "What did you say?" "I know you," she whispered. You're Marcus Thompson." His hands froze for just a moment. Just long enough for the past to crash into the present like a head-on collision. Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Tech Corporation. The woman who had destroyed his career, ended his livelihood, signed the termination papers that had forced him to rebuild his entire life from scratch. The woman who had called him a liability and insubordinate and a danger to company operations. That woman was bleeding in his arms. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm Marcus Thompson." Her eyes widened with confusion, maybe fear, maybe something else. You still remember how to save people." "I haven't forgotten anything that could save someone." Olivia squeezed her mother's hand tighter. "Mommy, he saved you. This man saved you." Marcus heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. He looked down at Victoria Sterling, this woman who had cost him everything, and felt nothing but the cold focus of duty. She was injured. She needed help. The rest of it didn't matter. Not yet. "Paramedics are coming," he said. "You're going to be fine." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why did you help me?" Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out something he'd carried for 2 years. A worn employee badge. His name printed across the front. His photo younger, more hopeful, staring back at him. He placed it on the stretcher beside her. "Maybe you'll figure that out someday." Then he stood, turned, and walked away. The paramedics rushed past him without a second glance. Just another maintenance worker heading home after a long shift. Nobody worth noticing. That's how Marcus Thompson had learned to survive. By being invisible. By being ordinary. By being the kind of man people looked right through. But Victoria Sterling watched him go. Through the pain and confusion, through the flashing lights and shouting voices, she watched him disappear into the shadows. And she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Twice. Marcus's hands were still shaking when he got home. Not from fear. Never from fear. His hands shook because his body didn't know the difference between a parking garage in downtown Chicago and a compound in Fallujah. It processed threat the same way. Released the same chemicals. Demanded the same payment afterward. He stood at the kitchen sink, running cold water over his knuckles. The boxer's face had been harder than expected. He'd split the skin on his middle finger. "Dad?" Marcus turned. His daughter Maya stood in the doorway, her backpack still on, her expression worried. "Hey, baby girl. How was school?" "Fine." She didn't move. "Why are your hands bleeding?" Marcus looked down. Red swirled in the sink water. "Had a rough day at work. Someone needed help." Maya walked closer, her serious eyes studying his face the way she always did. 8 years old, but sometimes she seemed ancient. Like she'd seen things no child should see. She had, of course. She'd watched her mother die. Did you save them? Maya asked. Yeah, I saved them. Good. She set down her backpack and opened the first aid kit she always carried. Her father had given it to her on her 6th birthday. She'd never gone anywhere without it since. Sit down, Dad. Let me clean that. Marcus smiled despite everything. You know I can do it myself, right? I know, but I'm better at it. He sat. Maya worked in silence, cleaning the wound with the careful precision he'd taught her. Her small hands were steady, confident. She'd make a hell of a medic someday, if that's what she wanted. Dad. Yeah. The person you saved. Were they nice? Marcus thought about Victoria Sterling. Her expensive suit. Her perfect makeup. The way she'd looked at him 2 years ago when she signed his termination papers. I don't know, he said honestly. Does it matter? Maya considered this while applying a bandage to his knuckle. I guess not. You taught me that helping people isn't about whether they deserve it. It's about not leaving anyone behind. That's right. So it doesn't matter if they're nice. No, it doesn't. Maya finished her work and examined the bandage with satisfaction. There, good as new. Marcus pulled her into a hug, holding her tight against his chest. She smelled like school lunch and playground dirt and everything good in his world. Thank you, baby girl. You're welcome, Dad. She pulled back, her expression shifting to something more practical. What's for dinner? Marcus laughed, the first real laugh he'd had all day. How about pancakes? Pancakes for dinner? Her eyes lit up. Really? Really, you've earned it. While Marcus made pancakes, Maya sat at the kitchen table working on homework and chattering about her day. A boy named Tyler had tried to take her lunch money. She'd told him no. He'd called her a mean name. She'd called him a meaner name. The teacher had separated them. Did you get in trouble? Marcus asked, flipping a pancake. A little. But Mrs. Patterson said I was right to stand up for myself. She just wished I'd used different words. What words did you use? Maya looked down at her homework. I'd rather not say. Marcus tried not to smile. Fair enough. They ate dinner together the way they did every night, just the two of them against the world. It had been that way since Maya's mother Karen died 4 years ago. Ovarian cancer. Fast and brutal and completely unfair. Marcus had been deployed when she got the diagnosis. He'd come home to find his wife half the woman she'd been. 6 months later, he was a widower and a single father with a 4-year-old daughter who didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming back. He'd left the Navy after that. Couldn't do the job knowing Maya was waiting at home, wondering if Daddy would disappear too. Sterling Tech had seemed like a good option. Security work. His skills put to civilian use. Good pay. Good benefits. A future. Until the explosion. Until Victoria Sterling decided he was too dangerous to employ. Marcus pushed the memories away. No point dwelling on the past. He had a daughter to raise bills to pay a life to rebuild. But as he washed the dinner dishes, he couldn't stop thinking about Olivia's face. That little girl clutching her mother, screaming for help. She reminded him of Maya. He wondered if Victoria Sterling ever thought about what it meant to be a single parent. To carry the weight of another life entirely on your shoulders. To know that if you failed, there was no backup plan. Probably not. People like Victoria Sterling didn't think about people like him. That's why she'd fired him so easily. The knock on his door came 3 days later. Marcus was underneath a '78 Camaro. When he heard it, the sound of expensive shoes on the concrete floor of his garage. He slid out on his creeper, squinting against the morning light. Victoria Sterling stood in the doorway. She looked different without the blood. Without the terror. Her bruises had faded to yellow-green shadows partially hidden behind designer sunglasses. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, nothing like the power suits he remembered from Sterling Tech. Maya looked up from her coloring book in the corner, curious but not alarmed. Marcus got to his feet, slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. Mrs. Sterling. Mr. Thompson. She hesitated. Marcus. What are you doing here? I came to thank you. He tossed the rag onto his workbench. You already thanked me, in the garage. That was different. I was in shock. I didn't really understand what you'd done for me. I stopped some men from hurting you worse than they already had, that's all. That's all. Victoria took off her sunglasses, letting him see her eyes red-rimmed from crying, or sleeplessness, he couldn't tell. You saved my life. You saved my daughter's life. After everything I did to you. Marcus said nothing. I looked into your file, she continued. After the hospital, I read the reports from 2 years ago. The real reports, not just the summary I was given. And I was wrong. The words seemed to cost her something. The accident that got you fired, you saved a man's life that day. You broke company protocol, yes, but only because the protocol would have let someone die. The protocol was wrong. I know that now. Her voice cracked slightly. I signed those termination papers myself. I didn't even question what I was told. I trusted the wrong people. Marcus studied her face, looking for the lie, looking for the angle. In his experience, people like Victoria Sterling always had an angle. But all he saw was a woman carrying a weight too heavy for her shoulders. He recognized that weight. He carried it himself. Why are you really here, Mrs. Sterling? I need your help. Maya had stopped coloring. She watched the exchange with the same serious attention she gave everything. The men who attacked you, Marcus said. You know who sent them? I think so. I've been looking into some irregularities at the company, safety violations that were covered up, accidents that were blamed on workers who had nothing to do with them. Victoria paused. Accidents like the one that got you fired. Marcus's jaw tightened. Charles Mitchell. You knew. I suspected. He was the one who pushed hardest for my termination. Kept calling me a liability, a loose cannon, said I was too focused on people and not focused enough on protecting company assets. He's still at Sterling Tech. He just got promoted to Vice President of Operations. And I think... Victoria lowered her voice. I think the attack in the parking garage was a message. From him. A message about what? About stopping my investigation. Maya appeared beside them holding her coloring book. She looked up at Victoria with unguarded curiosity. Are you the lady my dad saved? Victoria crouched down to Maya's level, wincing slightly from her injuries. Yes, I am. Your dad is very brave. I know. Maya nodded seriously. He saves everybody. He was a soldier before. He showed me how to make bandages and stop bleeding and everything. That's very impressive. He says helping people isn't about being a hero. It's about not leaving anyone behind. Victoria's eyes glistened. She looked up at Marcus, something shifting in her expression. Your daughter is remarkable. She is. You raised her alone. Since she was 4. Victoria stood slowly, her gaze moving between Marcus and Maya. For a long moment she didn't speak. I have a daughter too, she finally said. Olivia, the girl from the parking garage. I remember. Her father died 4 years ago. Car accident. Car. Victoria's voice steadied, becoming the CEO voice Marcus remembered, controlled, professional, detached. I've been raising her alone ever since, trying to run a company and be a mother at the same time, failing at both most days. Marcus didn't respond. He knew that feeling too well. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, Victoria said. I know I don't deserve it, but I am asking for your help. Whatever's happening at Sterling Tech, it's bigger than just safety violations. People could get hurt. Maybe already have. And you think I can help how? You know how the company works. You know the players. You know what really happened 2 years ago? Victoria met his eyes directly. And honestly, you're the only person who's ever told me the truth without worrying about what it would cost them. Marcus remembered his last day at Sterling Tech, the way he'd looked Victoria Sterling in the eye and told her exactly what he thought. Safety is about people, not paperwork. Someday you'll understand that. Maybe that day had finally come. Dad, Maya tugged his sleeve. Is the lady in trouble? Marcus looked down at his daughter, then at Victoria Sterling, then at the garage where he'd rebuilt his life one broken engine at a time. Yeah, baby girl, I think she is. Then you should help her. Maya's tone left no room for argument. That's what we do. Marcus almost smiled. He'd spent 4 years teaching Maya his values. He hadn't expected her to throw them back in his face. All right, he said finally. Tell me everything. From the beginning. Victoria exhaled relief and fear mixed together. It started 6 months ago. I found discrepancies in the safety inspection records. She was still talking when the sedan came out of nowhere. Tires screamed, an engine roared. Marcus grabbed Maya and Victoria simultaneously, throwing them behind the heavy tool cabinet as the car smashed through the garage entrance. Metal shrieked, glass exploded, the smell of burning rubber filled the air. Then silence. Marcus lifted his head carefully. The car had reversed and sped away, leaving destruction in its wake. His vintage Camaro was crushed, his tools scattered, his life's work demolished. But that wasn't what made his blood run cold. It was the note wrapped around a spark plug thrown through the shattered window. Maya picked it up before he could stop her. Dad, what does this mean? She held it out to him, her hands steady despite everything. Marcus read the words. Simple, direct, final. Stop investigating, or next time there won't be a warning. He looked at Victoria Sterling, who was trembling against the wall. Still want my help? She met his gaze, terrified, determined, desperate. Now more than ever. Marcus crumpled the note in his fist. Charles Mitchell had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He'd threatened Marcus Thompson's daughter. And Marcus Thompson didn't forget. He didn't forgive. And he absolutely didn't stop. The police arrived 20 minutes after the sedan disappeared. 2 patrol cars, 4 officers, a detective who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Marcus answered their questions with the patience of a man who'd been through worse. Yes, he saw the car. No, he didn't catch the plate. Yes, it seemed intentional. No, he didn't know who would want to hurt him. That last part was a lie. Victoria stood off to the side holding Maya's hand. The little girl hadn't cried, hadn't screamed. She'd simply watched the chaos unfold with those serious eyes, processing everything the way her father had taught her. Probably just teenagers, the detective said, scribbling in his notepad. Joyriders. We get a lot of that in this neighborhood. Teenagers who leave threatening notes? Marcus kept his voice even. Could be gang initiation. Could be random. We'll file a report, but honestly, Mr. Thompson, these cases rarely go anywhere. I understand. The detective handed him a card. Call if you remember anything else. Then they left. Simple as that. A man's livelihood destroyed, his daughter endangered, and the official response was a business card and a shrug. Marcus watched them drive away, his jaw tight. They're not going to help us, Victoria said quietly. No, they're not. I'm sorry. This is my fault. If I hadn't come here, If you hadn't come here, I'd still be working on that Camaro, and Charles Mitchell would still be covering up whatever he's covering up. Marcus turned to face her. This isn't about you anymore. He came after my daughter. Maya tugged his sleeve. Dad, where are we going to sleep tonight? The question hit him like a punch to the chest. His apartment was above the garage. The structure was compromised. Insurance would take weeks, maybe months. I don't know yet, baby girl. You can stay with us. Victoria spoke before she could stop herself. I have room. It's not much, but it's safe. Marcus stared at her. You're offering to let the man you fired sleep in your house. I'm offering to help someone who just lost everything because of me. Victoria's voice hardened. I know it doesn't make us even. Nothing will make us even. But it's what I can do right now. Maya looked up at her father. Dad, I think we should go with her. Maya. Olivia needs a friend. I could tell when I saw her. She's scared and lonely, like I was after Mommy died. Marcus closed his eyes. His 8-year-old daughter had more emotional intelligence than most adults he knew. "Okay," he said finally. "One night. Until I figure something out." Victoria nodded, relief washing over her features. "I'll drive." They gathered what they could salvage from the wreckage: Maya's first aid kit, some clothes, Marcus's military duffel bag that he'd never unpacked. The rest was rubble. As they pulled away from the destroyed garage, Maya pressed her face against the back window, watching her home disappear. "Dad?" "Yeah." "We're going to fix this, right?" Marcus met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "Yeah, baby girl. We're going to fix this." He just didn't know how yet. Victoria's penthouse was everything Marcus expected, and nothing he wanted. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. Furniture that cost more than his yearly salary. Art on the walls that probably required special insurance. Maya walked through the living room like she was visiting a museum, afraid to touch anything. "You can relax," Victoria said gently. "It's just a house." "It's really big," Maya whispered. "It's really empty," Victoria replied, and something in her voice made Marcus look at her differently. Olivia appeared from down the hallway, her eyes widening when she saw Maya. "Mommy!" "Who's that?" "This is Maya. Her father is the man who helped us in the parking garage. They're going to stay with us for a little while." Olivia studied Maya with the careful assessment of a child who'd learned not to trust easily. Then her face broke into a smile. "Do you want to see my room? I have a lot of stuffed animals?" Maya glanced at her father for permission. He nodded. The two girls disappeared down the hall, their voices already mixing in that instant friendship only children can create. "She hasn't smiled like that in months," Victoria said, watching them go. "Not since the attack. Since before that. Since I started working 80-hour weeks and missing her recitals and forgetting to pick her up from school." Victoria's voice cracked. "I've been a terrible mother, Marcus. The company was everything. I told myself I was building a future for her, but really I was just hiding." "Hiding from what?" "From the fact that I don't know how to do this alone." She sank onto the expensive couch, suddenly looking much smaller than the CEO he remembered. Michael was the parent. He was the one who knew how to braid hair and make breakfast and tell bedtime stories. When he died, I thought I could just power through, treat motherhood like another project to manage. It doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't. Victoria looked up at him. "How do you do it? Raise Maya by yourself while working full-time. She's so together, so confident." Marcus sat across from her, choosing his words carefully. "I don't power through. I'm present. Even when I'm exhausted. Even when I want to fall apart. I show up. I don't know how to do that." "You start by being honest, with her, with yourself." He leaned forward. "Kids don't need perfect parents. They need real ones. They need to know that when everything falls apart, someone will be there to catch them." Victoria wiped her eyes, embarrassed by her own vulnerability. "When did you become a philosopher?" "When I became a single father." Marcus almost smiled. "The Navy taught me how to survive. Maya taught me how to live." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. "Tell me about Mitchell," Marcus said finally. "Everything." Victoria took a deep breath. "Charles Mitchell has been with Sterling Tech since before I took over. He was my mentor in a lot of ways. He taught me how the company worked, who to trust, who to avoid. I thought he had my back. Until 6 months ago, I found discrepancies in the safety inspection reports from our Texas facility. Small things at first dates that didn't match signatures from engineers who weren't on site. But when I dug deeper, I found an entire section of violations that had been buried. Buried how? Filed under false categories, coded as resolved when they weren't. Someone had systematically hidden evidence of safety failures going back years. Marcus's hands tightened on his knees. The Texas facility. That's where the explosion happened. Yes. The explosion that killed 2 workers and injured 7 others. The explosion that I was told happened because a technician violated safety protocols. The technician you saved. His name is David Chen. He worked the line for 12 years without a single incident. Then suddenly he's the one who caused a catastrophic failure. Marcus shook his head. I never believed it. You were right not to. Victoria pulled out her phone, showing him a document. I found emails from Mitchell ordering maintenance staff to bypass safety interlocks during a systems upgrade. He wanted to meet a production deadline for a major client. The interlocks were supposed to prevent exactly the kind of cascade failure that happened. So Mitchell caused the explosion, and then blamed David Chen to cover it up. And when I broke protocol to save Chen instead of protecting the equipment, Mitchell saw an opportunity to eliminate a witness. Victoria's voice was bitter. He told me you were dangerous, insubordinate, that you'd ignored direct orders and cost the company millions. I believed him. Marcus stood walking to the window. The city lights stretched out below, millions of lives going about their business unaware of the corruption hidden in their midst. How many others? He asked. What do you mean? How many other accidents were covered up? How many other workers took the blame for Mitchell's corners? Victoria's silence was answer enough. Jesus, Marcus breathed. There's more. Victoria joined him at the window, her reflection pale against the glass. After the attack in the parking garage, I started looking at other facilities. Chicago, Detroit, Phoenix. The pattern is everywhere. Safety violations buried, inspections falsified, workers blamed for failures they didn't cause. And when you started investigating, Mitchell found out the attack was a warning. Victoria's hand instinctively touched the fading bruise on her temple. But it wasn't just about silencing me. It was about protecting something bigger. What? I don't know yet. But whatever it is, it's worth killing for. Marcus turned to face her. Then we find out what it is, before he tries again. How I've been locked out of company systems. My access has been restricted. Mitchell has the board convinced I'm the problem. You have something he doesn't. What's that? Me. Marcus's eyes were cold-focused. I know that company inside and out. I know where the bodies are buried, literally in some cases. And I know people who are still loyal to what Sterling Tech was supposed to be. You'd do that after what I did to you. This isn't about you and me anymore. This is about stopping a man who's willing to hurt children to protect his secrets. Marcus's voice dropped. Mitchell made this personal when he came after my daughter. Now I'm going to take him apart. Victoria studied his face. The determination there. The barely controlled rage. You're not just talking about exposing him, are you? I'm talking about justice, whatever form that takes. Marcus? Dad! Maya's voice came from the hallway. She stood there with Olivia, both girls in pajamas, both watching the adults with expressions too old for their years. What is it, baby girl? Olivia wants to know if you can tell us a bedtime story. Both of us, together. Marcus looked at Victoria, then at the 2 little girls who'd found each other through chaos and violence. Yeah, he said softly. I can do that. He followed them to Olivia's room, leaving Victoria alone with her thoughts and her guilt and her desperate hope that somehow this broken man could fix what she had destroyed. The bedtime story lasted an hour. Marcus hadn't planned it that way. He'd started with a simple tale about a brave knight, but Maya kept adding characters, and Olivia kept asking questions, and before he knew it, the 3 of them had created an entire world filled with dragons and princesses and magical swords. The knight wasn't strong because of his armor. Marcus said, his voice low, as both girls fought to keep their eyes open. He was strong because he never stopped fighting for the people he loved. Even when everyone told him to quit, even when it seemed impossible. Like you, Dad, Maya murmured sleepily. Like all of us, baby girl. Strength isn't about muscles or weapons. It's about getting up one more time than you fall down. Olivia's hand found his, her small finger squeezing gently. Will you tell us more stories tomorrow? Marcus felt something shift in his chest. This little girl who'd watched her mother bleeding on a garage floor, who'd been raised by nannies and housekeepers while her mother built an empire, who was starving for the kind of attention he gave Maya every day. "Yeah," he said. "Tomorrow. And the day after that." Olivia smiled a real smile, the kind he suspected Victoria rarely saw, and closed her eyes. Maya was already asleep, her hand still holding the first aid kit she insisted on keeping nearby. Marcus sat with them for a long time, watching them breathe, thinking about all the ways the world tried to break children, and all the ways children somehow survived anyway. When he finally returned to the living room, Victoria was still by the window, a glass of wine, untouched in her hand. "They're asleep," he said. "Thank you. Olivia, she doesn't connect with many people. She's been through a lot. So has Maya. Maybe that's why they understand each other." Victoria set down the wine glass. "I should show you where you'll be sleeping. The guest room is... I need to see those documents. The ones you found about the safety violations. Now, Mitchell isn't going to stop because it's late. We need to understand what we're dealing with." Victoria nodded slowly. "Follow me." She led him to a home office filled with files and folders, the chaos of a secret investigation spread across every surface. Marcus recognized the obsessive organization of someone who'd gone too deep, who'd seen something that couldn't be unseen. "I've been collecting evidence for 6 months," Victoria explained, handing him a thick folder. "Emails, inspection reports, internal memos, everything I could access before they locked me out." Marcus flipped through the pages, his military training helping him process information quickly. What he found made his stomach turn. "This is systematic," he said. "This isn't one man cutting corners. This is an entire culture of negligence." "I know. And Mitchell is at the center of it." "Not just Mitchell." Marcus held up a memo dated 3 years ago. "This has signatures from half your executive team. They all knew." Victoria's face paled. "Let me see that." She read the document, her hands trembling. "I didn't. I never saw this." "It was kept from you deliberately. They set up a shadow system for handling safety issues, one you weren't supposed to know about." "Why?" "Because you're the face of the company, the one who gives interviews and accepts awards. They needed you clean while they did the dirty work." Victoria sank into her desk chair. "I built this company. I thought I was creating something good, something that would matter. You were creating a target on your back." Marcus spread more documents across the desk. "The moment you started asking questions, you became a threat. Mitchell probably hoped the attack would scare you into backing off. It did the opposite. I know. That's why he'll try again." Victoria looked up at him. "What do we do?" "First, we make copies of everything. Multiple copies, different locations. If something happens to us, this evidence survives. And then we figure out what Mitchell is really protecting. Because this..." Marcus gestured at the files. "This is bad, but it's not hire professional thugs bad. There's something else. Something bigger." They worked through the night, organizing documents, creating timelines, identifying patterns. Marcus's military precision combined with Victoria's business knowledge to create a picture more damning than either could have imagined. By dawn, they had their answer. "Medical devices," Victoria whispered, staring at the evidence. "Oh my God, medical devices." Marcus had found it buried in the Texas facility records, a manufacturing line that produced components for pacemakers and insulin pumps. A manufacturing line with catastrophic quality control failures that had been hidden for over 2 years. "How many?" Victoria asked, her voice barely audible. Marcus didn't want to say it, but she needed to know. Based on the production records and the defect rates, potentially thousands of devices shipped with faulty components. People could be dying. People probably are dying, and Mitchell has been covering it up. Victoria pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting back nausea. "We have to go to the authorities. The FDA, the FBI, someone." "We will, but we need more proof. Right now, all we have is circumstantial evidence and documents that Mitchell could claim are falsified. We need something concrete. Like what? Like testimony from someone who was there. Someone who saw what really happened. Victoria's eyes widened. David Chen, the technician you saved. If he's still alive, and if he's willing to talk, he could blow this whole thing open. Mitchell paid him off, made him sign an NDA as part of his settlement. NDAs don't cover criminal activity. If Chen can prove Mitchell knowingly shipped defective medical devices, no NDA in the world will protect him. Victoria nodded hope, flickering in her exhausted eyes. I can find Chen's contact information. I still have some access to personnel records. Do it. I'll start reaching out to my contacts at the company. There are still good people there, people who might have seen something and been too afraid to talk. They were so focused on their work that neither heard the footsteps in the hallway. Mommy! Olivia stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Behind her, Maya watched with quiet concern. What are you doing up, sweetheart? Victoria moved toward her daughter, blocking her view of the damning documents. I had a bad dream. The men from the parking garage were chasing us. Victoria knelt down, pulling Olivia into a hug. It was just a dream. You're safe here. Promise. The word hung in the air. Marcus watched Victoria struggle with it, the weight of a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. I promise, Victoria said finally. No one is going to hurt you again. Over Olivia's shoulder, her eyes met Marcus's. He saw the fear there, the uncertainty, but also something else. Determination. Whatever it took, however long it took, they were going to bring Mitchell down. Not just for themselves. For these two little girls who deserved a world where monsters couldn't hide behind corporate logos and legal departments. Maya, Marcus said, keeping his voice calm. Why don't you and Olivia go make some breakfast? I think there's stuff for pancakes in the kitchen. Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. She knew when her father was trying to distract her, but she nodded anyway. Come on, Olivia. I know how to make really good pancakes. My dad taught me. The girls headed to the kitchen, their chatter gradually fading down the hallway. Victoria stood slowly, her face pale. I shouldn't have promised her that. You promised her you'd try. That's all any parent can do. What if it's not enough? Marcus thought about Karen, about the promises he'd made to her before she died, about all the ways he'd failed and all the ways he'd survived anyway. Then you get up and try again. One more time, then you fall down. Victoria nodded, gathering herself. The vulnerable mother disappeared, replaced by the CEO who'd built an empire from nothing. I'll find Chen's information. You make your calls. We have work to do. Marcus watched her transform, recognizing the armor she wore. He wore one too. They all did, the broken people trying to function in a world that didn't care about their scars, but armor had gaps. And sometimes, the only way forward was to let someone see the wounds underneath. Victoria, she paused at the door. After this is over, whatever happens, I want you to know something. What? Marcus chose his words carefully. I don't forgive you for what happened 2 years ago. Not yet, maybe not ever. But I understand why you did it. You were protecting your company, your people, your daughter. I would have done the same thing. Victoria's eyes glistened. That doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. But it makes it human. He paused. And right now, I'd rather work with a human than a saint. Something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not quite, but something adjacent to it. Understanding maybe. Or the beginning of trust. Thank you, Victoria said quietly, for not hating me. I don't hate you. I'm just not done being angry yet. Fair enough. She left the office, and Marcus turned back to the documents spread across the desk. Somewhere in this mess was the key to bringing Mitchell down. The key to protecting his daughter. The key to finally getting justice for all the workers who'd suffered and died because one man valued profit over people. He picked up his phone and started making calls. The war had begun. By noon, Marcus had reached out to 7 former colleagues at Sterling Tech. 4 didn't answer. 2 hung up when they heard his name. 1, a woman named Patricia, who'd worked in quality control, agreed to meet him. "I can't promise anything," she said, her voice nervous. "But there are things I've seen, things that keep me up at night." "That's all I'm asking. Just tell me what you know." They arranged to meet at a coffee shop across town. Marcus didn't tell Victoria where he was going. The fewer people who knew, the safer Patricia would be. But as he was leaving the penthouse, Maya appeared in front of him, her arms crossed. "Where are you going?" "I have to meet someone, baby girl. I'll be back in a few hours." "Is it dangerous?" Marcus considered lying. Then he remembered what he'd told Victoria about being honest. "It might be, but I have to do it anyway." Maya nodded slowly. "Then take me with you." "Absolutely not." "Dad." "Maya, this isn't negotiable. You stay here with Victoria and Olivia. You keep each other safe." "But what if something happens to you?" Her voice cracked, and suddenly she wasn't a serious 8-year-old with a first aid kit. She was a little girl who'd already lost her mother and couldn't bear to lose anyone else. Marcus knelt down, taking her hands in his. "Listen to me. I've survived things that would break most people. Firefights, explosions, losing your mom." His voice caught on the last words. "I'm still here. And I'm going to keep being here because that's my job. That's what I do. Promise?" There was that word again, the weight of it pressing down on him. "I promise I will do everything in my power to come back to you. That's the only promise I can make. But it's the truest one I've got." Maya hugged him fiercely, her small arms stronger than they looked. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, baby girl. More than anything in this world." He held her for a long moment, memorizing the feel of her against his chest. Then he stood, squeezed her shoulder, and walked out the door. Behind him, Maya watched him go. She didn't cry. She'd learned a long time ago that crying didn't bring people back. The coffee shop was nearly empty when Marcus arrived. Patricia sat in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. She was older than he remembered. Gray streaking her hair, worry lines carved deep around her eyes. "Marcus?" She didn't smile. "You look different." "It's been 2 years. Feels like 20. She glanced around nervously. "I shouldn't be here. If Mitchell finds out..." "He won't find out. I was careful." Patricia laughed bitterly. "Mitchell finds out everything. That's how he's stayed in power so long. He has people everywhere, eyes and ears in every department." Marcus sat across from her. "Then why did you agree to meet me?" "Because I'm tired." Patricia's voice broke. "I'm tired of pretending I don't know what's happening. Tired of going home every night and wondering if today was the day someone died because of something I saw and didn't report." "Tell me." Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then she started talking. What she described was worse than Marcus had imagined. The medical device failures weren't accidents, they were inevitable consequences of a production system designed to prioritize speed over safety. Quality control checkpoints had been eliminated. Testing protocols shortened. Inspection data falsified. "Mitchell calls it streamlining," Patricia said. "He tells the board we're cutting waste and improving efficiency. What we're really doing is sending defective products to hospitals and clinics across the country." "How many failures?" "Confirmed at least 47 in the past 2 years. Pacemakers that stopped working. Insulin pumps that delivered wrong doses. People died, Marcus. Real people with families and dreams and futures. Why hasn't anyone reported this?" "Because Mitchell is smart. He isolates the problems. Makes sure no single person has the whole picture. And anyone who asks too many questions..." Patricia's hand trembled. "They disappear. Not literally, not usually, but they get transferred. Demoted. Fired for cause. Their reputations destroyed. Like me. Like you. Like David Chen. Like a dozen others who tried to do the right thing." Patricia looked up at him, her eyes haunted. I've kept my head down for 2 years because I have a daughter in college and a mortgage, and I can't afford to lose everything. But I can't keep living like this. I can't keep being complicit." Marcus reached across the table, covering her trembling hands with his steady ones. "What you're telling me, would you testify to it on the record?" Patricia's face went pale. "Mitchell would destroy me." "Not if we destroy him first." She stared at him, seeing something in his eyes that she recognized. The same determination, the same willingness to sacrifice everything for what was right. "You're not just trying to expose him," she said slowly. "You're trying to bring him down. I'm trying to stop him, whatever that takes." Patricia pulled her hands away, her expression shifting. "There's something else. Something I didn't want to tell you because it's too big, too dangerous. Tell me anyway." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "The medical devices, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Mitchell has a separate project, off the books, something he calls Phoenix Protocol." "What is it?" "I don't know exactly, but I've seen the budget lines. Millions of dollars funneled through shell companies, secret facilities, testing that violates every FDA regulation on the books." Marcus felt cold dread settle in his stomach. "Testing on what?" Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "People. I think they're testing on people." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Marcus's mind raced through the implications. If Mitchell was running illegal human trials, if people were dying not just from defective products, but from deliberate experimentation, then this wasn't just corporate malfeasance. This was murder. "I need proof," he said. "I don't have proof. Just whispers, rumors, things I've overheard that don't add up." Patricia wiped her eyes. "But there's someone who might know more. A scientist named Dr. Elena Rodriguez. She was head of R&D until 6 months ago. Then she suddenly retired and disappeared." "Disappeared how?" "No forwarding address, no social media, no trace. It's like she never existed." Marcus filed the name away. Another thread to pull. Another path to follow. "Thank you, Patricia. What you've told me, it matters. More than you know. Just promise me you'll be careful." She stood gathering her purse. "Mitchell isn't just powerful, he's ruthless. And he's protected by people who have just as much to lose as he does." "I'm always careful." Patricia shook her head. "No, you're not. You're brave, which is different." She paused at the door. "That's why you got fired, Marcus. Not because you broke protocol. Because you showed the rest of us what courage looks like. And that scared them more than any explosion." She walked out, leaving Marcus alone with the weight of everything she'd said. People were dying. Children, possibly. And somewhere out there, a scientist who knew the truth was hiding for her life. He had to find her. He had to stop Mitchell. And he had to do it before anyone else got hurt. Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed Victoria's number. "I'm on my way back," he said when she answered. "And we need to talk. This is bigger than we thought." "How big?" Marcus stared out the coffee shop window, watching ordinary people go about their ordinary lives. None of them knew what was happening in the shadows. None of them suspected that the devices keeping their loved ones alive might be killing them instead. "Big enough to bring down more than just Charles Mitchell." He hung up and headed for the door. Behind him, a man in a dark suit lowered his newspaper and reached for his phone. "He's leaving now," the man said quietly. "And he's definitely talking to the Sterling woman. What do you want me to do?" On the other end of the line, Charles Mitchell's voice was cold. "Follow him. Find out what he knows. And if he gets too close..." The man waited. "Make sure he disappears. Him and anyone he's been talking to." The line went dead. The man stood, leaving money on the table, and walked out after Marcus Thompson. The hunt had begun. Marcus spotted the tail 3 blocks from the coffee shop. The man was good professional, keeping distance, blending with the crowd. But Marcus had spent 8 years hunting terrorists in countries where a shadow out of place meant death. He knew what surveillance looked like. He didn't panic. Panic got people killed. Instead, he adjusted his route, turning down a side street that led to a construction site. Fewer civilians. More cover. Better odds if this turned ugly. The man followed. Marcus waited behind a concrete pillar, counting heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. The man rounded the corner and Marcus moved. He had him against the wall before the man could reach for his weapon, forearm pressed against his throat, free hand pinning his wrist. "Who sent you?" The man struggled, eyes bulging. "I don't know what you're talking about." Marcus increased the pressure. "I've killed better liars than you. Who sent you?" "Mitchell." The name came out strangled. "Charles Mitchell." "What are your orders?" "Follow you. Report who you talk to." The man's face was turning purple. "That's all, I swear. And if I get too close to something..." The man's silence was answer enough. Marcus released him, stepping back but keeping himself between the man and any exit. "You're going to give Mitchell a message for me." The man rubbed his throat, gasping. "What message?" "Tell him I know about Phoenix Protocol. Tell him I know about the medical devices. Tell him I'm coming for him and nothing he does will stop me. He'll kill you." "Men have tried." Marcus's voice was flat. "I'm still here." He turned and walked away, leaving the man slumped against the wall. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Men like that only followed orders. They didn't have the initiative to act on their own. But Mitchell would know now. The clock was ticking. Victoria was waiting when he got back to the penthouse, pacing the living room like a caged animal. "You were followed." It wasn't a question. "Handled it." "Handled it how?" "The way I handle things." Marcus walked past her to check on the girls who were playing in Olivia's room, building something elaborate with blocks. Maya waved at him. He waved back, then returned to Victoria. "We need to move faster. Mitchell knows I'm digging. He's going to escalate." "What did you find out?" Marcus told her everything. Patricia's testimony, the scope of the medical device, failures, the whispered rumors about Phoenix Protocol, the missing scientist. Victoria listened in silence, her face growing paler with each revelation. "Illegal human testing," she finally said. "In my company. Under my name." "You didn't know." "Does that matter?" Her voice cracked. "People died, Marcus. Are dying. And I was too busy chasing profit margins to notice." "You noticed eventually. That's why we're here." Victoria shook her head. "It's not enough. Noticing isn't enough. I should have what? Personally inspected every facility. Read every report. Questioned every decision." Marcus grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You were running a company with 10,000 employees. You trusted people. The wrong people, yes. But you trusted them because that's what leaders do. Leaders are supposed to protect their people. And you are, right now, by fighting back." Victoria stared at him, searching for something in his face. Absolution, maybe. Or permission to keep going despite the guilt. "How do you do it?" she whispered. "How do you keep moving forward when everything you believed in turns out to be a lie?" Marcus thought about Karen, about the government that had sent him to war and then abandoned veterans like him, about the system that was supposed to protect workers but instead protected the people exploiting them. "You find something worth fighting for," he said, "and you hold on to it. What do you hold on to?" "Maya, the truth. The belief that somewhere under all the corruption and greed, there are still good people trying to do the right thing." Victoria's eyes glistened. "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise, what's the point?" They stood there for a long moment, the weight of everything they were facing pressing down on them. Then Victoria straightened, wiping her eyes. "Dr. Elena Rodriguez, how do we find her?" "I have some contacts who might be able to help. Former military intelligence. If she's hiding, they can find her. And if Mitchell finds her first, then we hope she's as smart as Patricia says she is." Marcus made the calls that night, reaching out to people he hadn't spoken to in years. Jake Torres, his former SEAL teammate, who now worked for the FBI. Maria Santos, a private investigator who owed him a favor from their days in the Navy. Tom Bradley, a hacker who operated in gray areas Marcus didn't ask about. By morning, they had a lead. Elena Rodriguez bought a bus ticket to Denver 6 months ago, Jake reported over the phone. Paid cash. From there, the trail goes cold, but there's a property in the mountains registered to her mother's maiden name. Remote. Hard to find if you don't know it exists. Address. Sending it now. But Marcus, be careful. If Mitchell has people looking for her too, you could be walking into a trap. Wouldn't be the first time. Just don't do anything stupid. You've got a kid who needs you. I know. Marcus paused. Thanks, Jake. Don't thank me. Just don't get killed. Marcus hung up and turned to Victoria. We found her. Colorado. Mountains outside Denver. Remote property. If she's hiding from Mitchell, that's where she'd be. Then we go. It's a 10-hour drive, and we can't take the girls somewhere that dangerous. Victoria's face tightened. I'm not leaving Olivia. We can't risk them, Victoria. If Mitchell is watching us, if he follows us there, then what do you suggest? Marcus had been thinking about it all night. There was only one option that made sense, but Victoria wasn't going to like it. Jake has a safe house. It's where the FBI keeps witnesses before trials. Secure location, armed guards, no one gets in without clearance. You want me to hand my daughter over to the FBI? I want to keep her alive, both of them. Marcus's voice hardened. Mitchell already tried to send a message by attacking you. If he finds out we're getting close to Rodriguez, he'll go after the girls. You know he will. Victoria wanted to argue. He could see it in her eyes, the fierce maternal instinct that said she should never let Olivia out of her sight. But she was also smart. Smart enough to know he was right. How secure is this safe house? Jake says it's the same facility they used for mob witnesses. No one has ever been compromised there. And you trust him. This Jake. With my life. With Maya's life. Marcus paused. He's the one person I'd trust with yours. Victoria closed her eyes, fighting an internal battle Marcus could only imagine. When she opened them again, the CEO had returned controlled, decisive, ready to act. Okay, we do it your way, but I talked to Olivia myself. I explain why she has to stay somewhere else. I'm not having her think I abandoned her. Of course. The conversation with the girls was harder than Marcus had anticipated. Maya predictably wanted to come with him. I can help Dad. You taught me how to bandage wounds and stay calm in emergencies. I know, baby girl, and I'm proud of you for that. But this isn't the kind of emergency where those skills matter. This is the kind where the best thing you can do is stay safe. But what if something happens to you? Then you'll be with people who can protect you until I get back. Marcus knelt down, taking her hands. I need you to be brave for me. Not the kind of brave that runs toward danger, the kind that waits and trusts and keeps hope alive. Can you do that? Maya's lip trembled, but she nodded. I can do that. That's my girl. Olivia was quieter, clinging to Victoria's hand, with a grip that seemed impossible for such small fingers. Why can't you come with us, Mommy? Because I have to go help some people who are in trouble, like Mr. Marcus helped us in the parking garage. But I don't want you to go. I know, sweetheart. I don't want to go either. But sometimes grown-ups have to do hard things to protect the people they love. What if the bad men hurt you again? Victoria glanced at Marcus, then back at her daughter. Mr. Marcus is going to make sure that doesn't happen. He's very good at protecting people. Olivia turned to Marcus, her eyes huge and trusting. You'll bring my mommy back. The weight of that question pressed down on Marcus like a physical force. Another promise. Another life depending on him. I'll bring her back, he said. I promise. The safe house was 2 hours outside the city, a nondescript building that looked like a warehouse from the outside. Jake met them at the entrance, his FBI credentials visible on his belt. Place is locked down tight, he assured them. 2-person entry, biometric security, 24-hour monitoring. The girls will be safer here than anywhere else in the country. Maya hugged Marcus fiercely before they separated. Come back soon, Dad. As soon as I can, baby girl. I love you. I love you too. More than anything. Olivia's goodbye to Victoria was equally tearful, the little girl refusing to let go until Jake gently intervened. We'll take good care of them, he promised. Just do what you need to do and come back in one piece. The drive to Colorado was long and mostly silent. Victoria stared out the window, lost in thought. Marcus focused on the road, watching for tails, planning for contingencies. It was somewhere around midnight, crossing the Kansas-Colorado border, that Victoria finally spoke. I keep thinking about what Patricia said, about people dying because of devices my company made. They're not your devices, they're Mitchell's. They have my name on them, Sterling Tech, my company, my responsibility. Her voice was hollow. 47 confirmed deaths, and who knows how many more that haven't been counted. That's not on you. Then who is it on? Victoria turned to face him. I hired Mitchell. I promoted him. I gave him the power to do this. If I'd paid more attention, if I'd asked more questions, you'd be dead. Marcus's voice was blunt. Mitchell doesn't leave loose ends. If you'd started asking questions 2 years ago, you'd have had an accident. A car crash maybe. Or a sudden illness. Something tragic, but unsuspicious. You think he would have killed me? I think he's killed before. And I think he'll kill again if we don't stop him. Victoria absorbed this in silence. Then, what about you? Don't you ever feel guilty about the things you've done? Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Every day. But you keep going. Because stopping doesn't bring anyone back. It just means their deaths were for nothing. Is that how you justify it, by making it count? It's how I survive. Marcus glanced at her. Guilt is a luxury for people who have time to dwell on the past. Right now, we don't have that luxury. We have a scientist to find and a monster to stop. Victoria nodded slowly. You're right. I know you're right. But sometimes I wonder... Wonder what? If I'm any better than Mitchell. If I'm just another person willing to sacrifice others to protect what I've built. There's a difference between making mistakes and choosing evil. You made mistakes. Mitchell made choices. How do you know? Marcus thought about the parking garage. About the look on those attackers' faces. Not desperation, not survival instinct, but the cold efficiency of professionals doing a job. Because I've seen evil. I've fought it. I've watched it operate up close. His voice dropped. Mitchell isn't a businessman who cut corners. He's a predator who found a way to feed legally. There's no remorse in him, no conscience, just appetite. Victoria shivered, despite the car's warmth. And I worked beside him for years without seeing it. Predators survive by hiding in plain sight. It's not your fault you didn't see the monster. The fault is his for being one. They drove in silence for another hour before Victoria spoke again. Marcus. Yeah. Thank you for not giving up on this, for not giving up on me. Marcus kept his eyes on the dark road ahead. Don't thank me yet. We haven't won anything. No, but we're fighting. That counts for something. She was right. It did. They reached the mountain property at dawn after switching to a rented four-wheel drive and navigating roads that barely deserved the name. The cabin sat in a valley surrounded by dense forest, invisible from any main road. Marcus parked a quarter-mile out and approached on foot, signaling Victoria to stay behind until he confirmed it was safe. The cabin looked abandoned at first, no lights, no smoke, no signs of recent activity. But as Marcus got closer, he noticed small details. Fresh tire tracks partially covered by fallen leaves. A security camera disguised as a birdhouse. Tripwires hidden in the underbrush. Someone was here. Someone who didn't want to be found. Marcus disabled the tripwires and approached the door carefully. Before he could knock, a voice came from behind him. Don't move. He froze. The voice was female, accented slightly, and backed by what sounded like a shotgun. Elena Rodriguez. A pause. Who's asking? My name is Marcus Thompson. I used to work for Sterling Tech. I'm here because Charles Mitchell is trying to kill me, and I think he's trying to kill you too. And why should I believe you? Because if I were working for Mitchell, I would have brought more people, and I wouldn't have disabled your traps instead of triggering them. Another pause. Then, turn around. Slowly. Marcus turned. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was smaller than he expected, barely 5 feet tall, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much. She held the shotgun like someone who knew how to use it. You're the one who saved David Chen, she said. The maintenance worker who got fired for being a hero. That's me. And now you're hunting Mitchell. He attacked the woman I'm working with, threatened our children. I don't take kindly to that. Elena studied him for a long moment. Then she lowered the shotgun. Come inside. We need to talk. The cabin was sparse but functional. A scientist's retreat filled with stacks of documents and computer equipment that seemed out of place in the rustic setting. Marcus signaled for Victoria to join them. Elena's eyes narrowed when she saw the CEO of Sterling Tech walking through her door. Victoria Sterling, I didn't expect to see you here. I imagine not. Victoria's voice was cautious. You disappeared 6 months ago. I was told you retired for health reasons. Elena laughed bitterly. Is that what Mitchell told you, that I retired? What really happened? I found out what he was doing, the Phoenix Protocol. I tried to report it through official channels. A week later, I came home to find my apartment ransacked and 2 men waiting for me. I barely got out alive. Marcus stepped forward. Tell us about Phoenix Protocol. Everything. Elena poured herself a drink whiskey straight and sat heavily in a worn armchair. It started 3 years ago. Mitchell approached me with a proposal. He said Sterling Tech had an opportunity to revolutionize medical device testing. Faster trials, fewer regulations, results in months instead of years. That's illegal, Victoria said. Very. But Mitchell had connections, offshore facilities, test subjects who were desperate. Elena's voice caught. I thought it was unethical but containable. Small-scale trials on volunteers who understood the risks. What changed? I found out who the volunteers really were. Homeless people, undocumented immigrants, prison inmates promised reduced sentences, people with no power and no voice. Victoria's face went white. Mitchell was experimenting on vulnerable populations. Worse, he was harvesting them. Elena drained her whiskey. The devices we were testing, some of them worked, but the ones that didn't, the subjects died, and Mitchell would document the failures, adjust the designs, and move on to the next batch. Marcus felt sick. How many? In the official records, 0. Phoenix Protocol doesn't exist on paper, but based on what I saw before I ran, Elena's eyes were haunted. At least 200. Maybe more. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Where are these offshore facilities? Marcus asked. I don't know exactly. Mitchell kept the locations compartmentalized, but I have data. Research logs, subject numbers. Enough to prove what's happening if it gets to the right people. You've had this evidence for 6 months. Why haven't you gone to the authorities? Because Mitchell owns the authorities. Elena stood pacing. I tried. I reached out to a contact at the FDA. 2 days later, he was dead. Car accident. I tried the FBI next. The agent I spoke to was transferred to Alaska within a week. Everyone I contact either dies or disappears. So you've been hiding. I've been surviving, waiting for someone who could actually do something with what I know. Victoria stepped forward. We can do something. The FBI agent Marcus works with Jake Torres. He's outside Mitchell's reach. He's already investigating. Elena looked skeptical. And you trust him? With my life? Marcus said. With my daughter's life. That's a big bet. It's the only bet we have. Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she walked to a filing cabinet, unlocking it with a key she wore around her neck. Everything's in here. Research logs, financial records, communications between Mitchell and his contacts. It's enough to bring down not just him, but everyone who helped him. She pulled out a thick folder and handed it to Marcus. Take it. Get it to your FBI friend, and pray that Mitchell doesn't find out before you can act. What about you? I'll disappear again. Find somewhere else to hide until this blows over if it ever does. Come with us. Jake can protect you. Elena shook her head. I've been running for 6 months. I'm tired. Too tired to start trusting people again. She paused. But if you succeed, if you actually bring Mitchell down, then maybe I'll come out of hiding. Maybe I'll finally stop looking over my shoulder. Victoria touched Elena's arm gently. I'm sorry. For all of this. For not seeing what was happening in my own company. Elena's expression softened slightly. You weren't the one doing it. Mitchell has been manipulating people for years. He's very good at hiding what he really is. That doesn't excuse my blindness. No, but it explains it. Elena looked at Marcus. Keep her alive, Mr. Thompson. She's one of the few good ones left. I intend to. They left the cabin with the folder secure in Marcus's jacket. Elena watched them go from her doorway, the shotgun back in her hands. She's been through hell, Victoria said as they hiked back to the vehicle. Haven't we all? The drive back was faster urgency pushing them forward. Marcus called Jake from the road, arranging a secure handoff for the evidence. This is bigger than I thought, Jake said when Marcus explained what they'd found. Phoenix Protocol. Jesus. This goes way beyond corporate malfeasance. Can you take him down? With this evidence, absolutely. But it's going to take time. We need to coordinate with FDA, with justice, with international agencies if those offshore facilities are in other countries. How much time? Days, maybe weeks. There are procedures, protocols. We don't have weeks. Mitchell knows we're getting close. He'll act. Then stay low, stay safe. Don't give him a reason to move against you until we're ready. That's not going to be easy. I know, but it's the only option. Jake paused. How are the girls? Safe. Scared but holding it together. Maya keeps asking when you're coming back. Marcus's chest tightened. Tell her soon. Tell her I promised. I will. Just make sure you keep that promise. They were an hour from Chicago when Victoria's phone rang. She answered, listened for a moment, then went pale. What is it? Marcus asked. Victoria's hand was shaking. That was Bradley, my assistant. What did he say? Mitchell called an emergency board meeting. He's presenting evidence that I've been embezzling funds and selling company secrets to competitors. The board is meeting tomorrow morning to vote on my permanent removal. That's insane. You haven't done anything. It doesn't matter what I've done. It matters what Mitchell can make them believe. Victoria's voice was bitter. He's been planning this for months. The attack in the parking garage, the investigation, all of it, he was just waiting for the right moment to strike. Then we fight back. With what my access is revoked. My accounts are frozen. Everyone I thought was loyal has either been bought or threatened. You have the Phoenix Protocol evidence. Once that goes public, if it goes public, Mitchell will do everything in his power to stop it. Victoria turned to him, fear and determination warring in her eyes. This isn't just about saving my reputation anymore. This is about survival, his and ours. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He read it and felt the blood drain from his face. What? Victoria asked. What is it? Marcus showed her the message. I know where your daughter is. Bring me the evidence, or she dies. You have 24 hours. Below the text was a photo. Maya and Olivia sitting in the FBI safe house, completely unaware that their location had been compromised. Victoria screamed a raw, primal sound that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her throat. Marcus was already dialing Jake's number, his hand steady despite the hurricane inside his chest. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. No answer. He tried again. Same result. "Something's wrong." Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. "Jake always answers." "Mitchell got to him. He got to the safe house." "We don't know that yet." "What else could it be?" Marcus didn't have an answer. He pressed the accelerator to the floor, the engine screaming as they raced toward Chicago, toward their daughters, toward whatever nightmare Mitchell had prepared for them. "I'll kill him." Victoria whispered, her voice shaking with a rage Marcus recognized. "If he's touched Olivia, I'll kill him myself." "Get in line." Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "The warehouse on Canton Street. Midnight tonight. Come alone. Bring everything." Victoria grabbed his arm. "It's a trap." "I know. You can't go alone." "I wasn't planning to." Marcus's mind was already racing through contingencies. The safe house might be compromised, but Jake was smart. He would have backup plans. Emergency protocols. Ways to protect the girls even if the primary security failed. Unless Mitchell had planned for all of that. Unless Jake was already dead. Number. Marcus couldn't think like that. He had to believe that Maya and Olivia were still alive, still safe, still waiting for him to come get them. He had promised. And Marcus Thompson didn't break his promises. Not ever. "We need help," he said. "More help than just you and me." "Who?" "People Mitchell doesn't know about. People he can't buy or threaten." Marcus pulled up his contact list. "I know some people from my military days. Good people who don't ask too many questions." "Will they come?" "For something like this?" Marcus thought about the brothers he'd served with, the bonds that had been forged in fire and blood. "Yeah, they'll come." He made the calls. One by one, old friends answered, and one by one they agreed to help. By the time they reached Chicago, Marcus had assembled a team. It wasn't large, just 4 men besides himself, but they were all former special operators. All combat veterans, all fathers. They understood what was at stake. "We hit the warehouse at 11, Marcus said, briefing the team in a motel room across the city. 1 hour before Mitchell's deadline. He'll be expecting us to wait to negotiate, to do this his way. We don't give him that chance." Victoria watched from the corner, her face drawn with exhaustion and fear. "What about the girls?" she asked. "Jake hasn't checked in, which means the safe house might be compromised. We need to assume Mitchell has them." Marcus's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his terror. "But we also need to assume he won't hurt them until he gets what he wants. They're leverage. They're only valuable alive." "And if you're wrong?" Marcus met her gaze. "Then I'll kill everyone involved and spend the rest of my life making sure Mitchell's empire burns to the ground." Victoria nodded slowly. "Then, let's make sure you're not wrong." The hours until midnight passed like years. Marcus checked and rechecked his equipment, studied building plans, ran through scenarios in his mind, every possible outcome, every potential failure point. At 10:30, his phone rang. It was Jake. "Marcus?" His voice was hoarse, strained. "I'm sorry. They hit us with overwhelming force. I tried." "Are the girls alive?" A pause that lasted forever. "They took them. Both of them. I couldn't." "Are they alive?" "Yes. They were alive when they left. Mitchell's men. They said the girls were insurance, that they wouldn't be hurt as long as you cooperated." Marcus closed his eyes, relief and rage warring inside him. "Jake, I need you to stay where you are. Help is coming." "Marcus, don't do anything. Help is coming." He hung up. Victoria stood in front of him, her face a mask of controlled panic. "They have our daughters." "Yes." "Then what do we do?" Marcus picked up his tactical vest, checking each pocket, each weapon, each tool. "We go get them back." The warehouse on Canton Street sat in an industrial wasteland on Chicago's south side. Abandoned factories, empty lots, the kind of place where screams went unheard and bodies went undiscovered. Marcus had seen places like this before. In Fallujah, in Kandahar, places where men did terrible things because they believed no one was watching. Tonight, someone was watching. His team spread out around the perimeter, moving like shadows through the darkness. Tommy Chen, former Marine sniper, positioned himself on an elevated water tower with clear sightlines to all entry points. Marcus's other 3 men, all Army Rangers, all combat veterans, all fathers, who understood exactly what was at stake, took positions at the northeast and west approaches. Marcus and Victoria waited in a rusted-out delivery truck 50 yards from the main entrance. "How many inside?" Victoria asked, her voice barely audible. "Thermal imaging shows 8, maybe 9 bodies. 2 small heat signatures clustered together near the back. That's our girls. And Mitchell. He'll be there. Men like him need to watch." Victoria's hands were trembling, not from fear, from rage. Marcus recognized the difference. "When we go in, you stay behind me, no matter what happens, no matter what you see. And if I see my daughter, you stay behind me until I tell you it's clear." "Marcus." "Victoria." He turned to face her, his eyes hard. "I can't protect you and fight at the same time. If you want Olivia to come out of this alive, you do exactly what I say. Understood?" She wanted to argue. He could see it in every line of her body, but she nodded. Understood. Marcus checked his watch. 10:47 p.m. 13 minutes until they moved. His earpiece crackled. Tommy's voice. "Movement at the east entrance. 2 guards armed. Looks like standard private security, not military." "Copy. Hold position until I give the signal." "Roger that." Marcus turned to Victoria. "Once we go in, everything happens fast. The girls will be scared. They might not recognize what's happening. Your job is to get to them, keep them calm, and get them out. I'll handle everything else." "What does everything else mean?" "It means you don't look back, no matter what you hear." Victoria's face was pale in the darkness. "You're going to kill him." "I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect our daughters." "And if that means killing..." Marcus met her eyes without flinching. "Then, yes." Victoria absorbed this for a long moment. Then she reached out and touched his arm. "Make it hurt." The clock hit 10:52. 8 minutes. Marcus ran through the plan one more time in his head. Tommy would take out the external guards with his suppressed rifle. The other 3 men would breach simultaneously through the northeast and west entrances, creating chaos and confusion. Marcus would go in through the main entrance directly toward the girls, while Mitchell's men scrambled to respond to multiple threats. It was a simple plan. Simple plans worked best. But no plan survived first contact with the enemy. "Marcus." Tommy's voice again. "Black SUV approaching from the south. 3 passengers. "Mitchell." "Can't confirm. Vehicle is stopping at the entrance now." Marcus watched through the truck's cracked windshield as a man in an expensive suit stepped out of the SUV. Even from this distance he recognized the posture, the arrogance. Charles Mitchell. "Target confirmed. All teams stand by." "Standing by." Mitchell walked toward the warehouse entrance, flanked by 2 bodyguards. He moved like a man who owned the world, like a man who had never faced a consequence in his life. That was about to change. 10:58 p.m. 2 minutes. Marcus pulled out the Phoenix Protocol evidence, the folder Elena Rodriguez had given them. He'd made copies, of course. Multiple copies stored in multiple locations. But Mitchell didn't know that. "Time." Victoria checked her phone. 1 minute. "Stay close. Move when I move. Stop when I stop." "I know." "And Victoria." "What?" Marcus handed her a small pistol. "Point and squeeze. Nothing fancy. Just in case." She took the weapon with hands that were steadier than they'd been moments ago. Something had shifted in her. The CEO was gone. The mother had taken over. "I won't hesitate." "Good." 11 p.m. Marcus keyed his radio. "All teams execute." The first shot came from Tommy's position, a muted crack that dropped one of the external guards before anyone knew what was happening. The second guard spun, reaching for his weapon, and Tommy's second shot took him through the chest. Then everything erupted at once. Marcus kicked open the truck door and sprinted toward the warehouse, Victoria right behind him. He heard the simultaneous breaches, explosive charges blowing locks doors, crashing inward, shouted commands, and suppressed gunfire. The main entrance guards were already dead when he reached them, taken out by Tommy's precision. Marcus stepped over their bodies and entered the warehouse. The interior was chaos. Mitchell's men were scrambling, unsure which direction the attack was coming from. Some were returning fire toward the side entrances. Others were running for cover. None of them were paying attention to the main door. Marcus moved through them like a ghost. The first man never saw him coming, a knife to the throat, silent and efficient. The second man turned at the sound of the body falling and met Marcus's fist, his nose shattering on impact before a follow-up strike crushed his windpipe. "Clear left," Marcus said into his radio. "Moving toward the back." "North entrance secured," one of his men reported. 2 hostiles down. East entrance secured. 3 down. West entrance contact, 2 more. Gunfire. Clear, 4 down. Marcus kept moving Victoria close enough to touch. They passed through shipping containers and stacked crates following the path he'd memorized from the thermal imagery. A door ahead, metal reinforced. The girls were behind it. Marcus tried the handle. Locked. "Cover me," he told Victoria. Then kicked the door with everything he had. It held. He kicked again. The frame cracked. Third kick. The door flew open. Inside, Maya and Olivia sat huddled together on a cot. Their hands bound their faces, streaked with tears. A woman stood over them, a gun pressed to Maya's head. "One more step and she dies." Marcus froze. Victoria made a sound behind him, something between a scream and a sob. "Mom!" Olivia cried. "Mom, help!" The woman tightened her grip on Maya. "Drop your weapons, both of you, now!" Marcus raised his hand slowly. "Easy. Nobody needs to get hurt here." "Funny. That's not what your little raid suggests. That was for the men outside, not for you. Let the girls go and you walk out of here alive." The woman laughed. "You think I'm stupid. You'll kill me the second they're clear." "You have my word." "Your word means nothing." "Dad." Maya's voice was small, terrified. But her eyes were watching him. Waiting. Trusting. Marcus had taught her what to do in situations like this. Stay calm. Wait for an opening. Be ready to move. "It's okay, baby girl. Everything's going to be okay. Touch her and I blow your head off. You do that, and nothing in this world will stop me from tearing you apart." The woman's hand was shaking. She wasn't a professional, that much was clear. Mitchell had hired muscle for the outside, but this was someone different. Someone who'd been given a job she wasn't prepared for. "Just let them go," Victoria said, stepping forward. "Please, they're children. They haven't done anything. Stay back. I'm their mother, both of them." Victoria's voice broke. "Please, I'll do anything. Whatever Mitchell wants, just don't hurt them." The woman hesitated. Just for a second. It was enough. Maya bit down on the woman's hand hard and threw herself sideways. The gun discharged the bullet, going wide, and Marcus moved. He covered the distance in 2 strides, ripping the weapon from the woman's grip and driving her to the ground. One punch to the temple, and she went limp. "Maya." He pulled his daughter into his arms, his hands shaking as he cut her bonds. "Are you hurt? Baby, are you hurt?" "I'm okay, Dad. I'm okay." She was crying, but she was whole, unharmed, alive. Victoria had Olivia, the 2 of them clutching each other, like they'd never let go. "We need to move," Marcus said, forcing himself back into combat mode despite the overwhelming relief flooding through him. "Mitchell is still out there." They emerged from the room to find Marcus's team converging from all directions. Tommy had descended from his sniper position rifle, still at the ready. "Building is secure," Tommy reported. 8 hostiles neutralized, but we've got a problem." "What problem?" "Mitchell. He's not here." Marcus's blood went cold. "He was. I saw him enter." Then he slipped out during the chaos. Must have had an exit strategy we didn't know about. Find him. Marcus! Find him! But even as he said it, Marcus knew it was too late. Mitchell was gone. Escaped into the night like the cockroach he was. The victory felt hollow. They regrouped outside where Jake Torres had arrived with FBI backup. His face was bruised, his arm in a sling, but he was alive. "I'm sorry," Jake said, his voice thick with guilt. "They hit us with a dozen men, tactical gear, flash grenades. By the time I knew what was happening, they had the girls and were gone." "You're alive. That's what matters." "It's not enough. I should have—" "Jake," Marcus put a hand on his friend's shoulder. "You did everything you could. Mitchell has been planning this for years. He has resources we can't even imagine. The fact that we got the girls back at all is a miracle. Mitchell got away. For now, but we have the evidence. Everything Elena Rodriguez gave us, plus everything Patricia told me, plus the testimony of a dozen witnesses who are ready to talk. He can run, but he can't hide forever." Jake nodded slowly. "FBI is putting out an APB. All airports, train stations, border crossings. He won't get far. Make sure of it." Victoria approached Olivia, still in her arms. Maya had pressed herself against Marcus's side, her small hand gripping his with desperate strength. "What happens now?" Victoria asked. "Now we finish what we started." The next 12 hours were a blur of FBI interviews, medical examinations, and legal consultations. The girls were checked by doctors and pronounced physically unharmed, though the psychological scars would take longer to assess. Patricia came forward officially, providing sworn testimony about the safety violations she'd witnessed. David Chen, the technician. Marcus had saved 2 years ago, finally broke his NDA, and told the truth about what had happened the day of the explosion. The Phoenix Protocol evidence went to multiple agencies simultaneously: FBI, FDA, DOJ, and several international partners. Elena Rodriguez emerged from hiding to provide expert context for the research logs, her testimony corroborating the worst of what they'd feared. By dawn, the story had broken. Sterling Tech VP Charles Mitchell sought in connection with massive fraud investigation. The headline screamed. Medical device scandal claims at least 47 lives. Illegal human testings allegations surface. Victoria gave a press conference outside Sterling Tech headquarters, flanked by FBI agents and company lawyers. "I want to be clear about something," she said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "I am not the victim here. The victims are the workers who were injured and killed by unsafe conditions. The victims are the patients who received defective devices. The victims are the human beings who were exploited in the name of profit." "Ms. Sterling, did you know about the Phoenix Protocol?" a reporter shouted. "No, but that's not an excuse. I should have known. I should have asked more questions, demanded more transparency, paid closer attention to what was happening in my own company. I failed in my responsibility as CEO, and I will spend the rest of my career trying to make that right." "What about Charles Mitchell? Any comment on his escape?" Victoria's jaw tightened. "Charles Mitchell is a coward and a murderer. He will be found. He will face justice. And until that day, I will not rest." The search for Mitchell continued for 3 days. They found him in a private airfield outside Indianapolis, trying to flee the country on a chartered jet. He didn't resist arrest. Men like him never did once their walls came crumbling down. Without his money, his connections, his carefully constructed protection, Charles Mitchell was just another criminal. Marcus watched the arrest on television from Victoria's penthouse. Maya asleep on his lap. Olivia curled up beside her. "It's over," Victoria said, standing behind the couch. "No, it's just beginning." "What do you mean?" Marcus stroked Maya's hair gently, watching Mitchell being led away in handcuffs. "Bringing him down was the easy part. Now comes the hard part: rebuilding. Your company, your reputation, the lives of everyone who was hurt." "I don't know if I can do that." "You can. You will." Marcus turned to look at her. Because you're not the same person who signed my termination papers 2 years ago. That person would have protected herself first and worried about everyone else later. The person standing here now, she's ready to do the work." Victoria's eyes glistened. "How do you know?" "Because I've been watching you. Through all of this, the attacks, the threats, the terror of losing your daughter, you kept fighting, not for yourself, for the truth, for the people who deserve justice. I had help. Everyone needs help. The measure of a person isn't whether they can do it alone. It's whether they're willing to ask when they can't." Victoria sat down on the arm of the couch, her gaze falling on the two sleeping girls. "They look like sisters. They've been through something most adults couldn't handle. That creates a bond. Will they be okay? With time, with love, with people who show up for them every day, no matter how hard it gets. Is that what you did with Maya?" After her mother died. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I tried. Some days I succeeded. Some days I failed. But I kept showing up. That's all any of us can do." "Marcus?" "Yeah. What happens now between us, I mean?" It was the question that had been hanging between them for days, maybe longer, since the moment he'd saved her in the parking garage and discovered that the woman he'd hated was more complicated than he'd imagined. "I don't know," he said honestly. "A week ago, I wanted nothing to do with you. You represented everything I'd lost, everything that had been taken from me. And now I see someone who made mistakes and is trying to make them right. Someone who loves her daughter the way I love mine. Someone who's been alone for too long and is finally willing to let people in." Victoria's breath caught. "That sounds like the beginning of something. Maybe, if we both want it." "I think I want it." "You think?" "I know." Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. "I know I want it, but I'm terrified of failing again, of hurting you, of hurting the girls." "That fear means you care. It means you're taking this seriously." "What if caring isn't enough?" Marcus reached out, taking her hand. "Then we figure it out together. The same way we figured out how to bring down Mitchell. One step at a time. One day at a time." "You make it sound so simple." "It's not simple. It's the hardest thing in the world. But it's also the most worthwhile." Maya stirred in her sleep, murmuring something unintelligible. Marcus adjusted her position, tucking her more securely against his chest. "She asked me something yesterday," he said quietly. "After everything that happened, she asked if you and Olivia were going to stay with us forever." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know, that grown-ups had to figure those things out and it takes time." "What do you want to tell her?" Marcus looked at Victoria. Really looked at her for maybe the first time since this nightmare began. He saw the exhaustion, the fear, the hope she was afraid to acknowledge. He saw himself. "I want to tell her that some families are born and some families are made. That the people who love you aren't always the ones who share your blood. That sometimes the best thing that can happen is finding people who understand you, who fight for you, who refuse to give up no matter how hard things get." Victoria's tears spilled over. "That's beautiful." "It's true." Marcus squeezed her hand. "I'm not saying I know how this ends. I'm not promising forever. But I am saying that whatever happens, you're not alone anymore. Neither of us is. I don't deserve that. Nobody deserves anything. We just do our best and hope it's enough." The next weeks passed in a strange mixture of chaos and calm. Mitchell's trial became a national spectacle, dominating news cycles and sparking conversations about corporate accountability that had been long overdue. One by one, witnesses came forward. Factory workers, engineers, office staff, all telling stories of intimidation, cover-ups, and systemic failures that had been ignored for years. Victoria testified for 3 days straight, her voice never wavering as she detailed her investigation and Mitchell's attempts to silence her. She took responsibility for her own failures, the blind trust, the willful ignorance, the priorities that had put profit above people. The jury found Mitchell guilty on 47 counts of negligent homicide, 18 counts of fraud, and 12 counts related to the illegal human testing program. He was sentenced to life without parole. When the verdict was announced, Victoria was sitting in the courtroom beside Marcus. She didn't celebrate. Neither did he. "It doesn't bring them back," she said as they walked out. "All those people who died. This doesn't undo what happened." "No, but it prevents it from happening again. And it tells the world that there are consequences for treating human lives as expendable. Is that enough?" Marcus thought about the question, about all the missions he'd completed that hadn't felt like victories, about the wars that had ended without anyone really winning. "It's never enough," he said finally. "But it's something, and something is better than nothing." Victoria nodded slowly. "I want to do more." "What do you mean?" "I want to build something that prevents this from ever happening again. A center where workers can learn about their rights, where companies can get training on real safety culture, where whistleblowers can find support instead of being destroyed." "That's a big undertaking." "I know, and I can't do it alone." Victoria stopped walking, turning to face him. "I need someone who understands what real safety looks like. Someone who's seen what happens when it fails. Someone who's been fighting for the right things, even when it cost him everything." Marcus understood what she was asking. A partnership, a purpose, a new direction for both of them. "What about Sterling Tech?" "I'm resigning as CEO. The company needs new leadership, someone without my baggage. But I'm keeping my shares, and I'm using them to fund this new initiative." Victoria paused. "I want to call it the Phoenix Response Center, because we're building something new from the ashes of what was destroyed." Phoenix. Marcus let the word settle. "I like it. Will you help me, not just as an advisor or consultant, as a partner? Equal say in everything. Your expertise and my resources combined." It was a bigger offer than Marcus had expected. Bigger than anything he'd imagined for himself after leaving the military, after being blacklisted from corporate security, after rebuilding his life one broken engine at a time. But looking at Victoria, seeing the determination in her eyes, the genuine desire to make things right, he realized that this was what he'd been waiting for. Not revenge, not vindication, but purpose. "There's one condition," he said. "Name it. We do this right. No shortcuts, no compromises, no putting appearances ahead of substance." "That's exactly what I want. And the girls come first, always. No matter how important the work gets, no matter how many demands there are on our time, Maya and Olivia are the priority." Victoria smiled a real smile, the first he'd seen since this nightmare began. "That's 2 conditions." "Is that a problem?" "Not even a little." They stood there for a long moment, the noise of the courthouse fading around them. Something had shifted between them. Something that felt like the beginning of something real. "Partners." Victoria extended her hand. Marcus took it. "Partners." They walked out of the courthouse together into a future neither of them had planned, but both of them needed. Behind them, the wheels of justice continued to turn, processing evidence, filing appeals, ensuring that Charles Mitchell would never hurt anyone again. Ahead of them, 2 little girls were waiting. 2 little girls who had survived the worst and emerged stronger. 2 little girls who had found each other through chaos and emerged as sisters. Maya and Olivia ran toward them the moment they came through the door, their faces bright with relief and joy. "Is it over?" Maya asked, hugging her father fiercely. "Is the bad man going to jail forever?" "Forever," Marcus confirmed. "He's never going to hurt anyone again." "Good." Maya's expression was serious beyond her years. "He deserved it." "Yes, he did." Olivia had wrapped herself around Victoria, refusing to let go. "Can we stay together now, Mommy? All of us? Can Marcus and Maya stay with us?" Victoria looked at Marcus over her daughter's head. The question hung between them, bigger than a child's simple request, loaded with implications neither of them was quite ready to address. But some things didn't need to be figured out all at once. "For now," Victoria said carefully, "we're all going to stay together, and we're going to figure out the rest one day at a time." That's what Dad always says, Maya observed. One day at a time. Marcus ruffled her hair. That's because it's good advice. Does that mean you and Victoria are going to be like a family? The question was so direct, so innocent, so completely lacking in adult complications that it cut straight to the heart of everything. Marcus knelt down to Maya's level, pulling Olivia in so both girls could hear him. Family isn't about sharing a last name or living in the same house. Family is about people who show up for each other, who protect each other, who keep fighting even when things get hard. He looked at Victoria, then back at the girls. By that definition, we're already a family. We have been since the moment we decided to fight for each other instead of against each other. Maya considered this with her characteristic seriousness. Then she nodded. Okay, I like that definition. Me too, Olivia added. Does that mean Marcus is like my dad now? Victoria's breath caught. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, something that felt like hope, like possibility, like a door opening to a room he'd thought was forever closed. I think, he said carefully, that means we all get to figure out what we are to each other. And we don't have to rush. We can take our time and do it right. One day at a time, Maya said. One day at a time. That night after the girls were asleep, Marcus and Victoria sat on the balcony of her penthouse, looking out at the city lights. Thank you, Victoria said quietly. For everything. For saving my life. For fighting alongside me. For not giving up even when I gave you every reason to. You gave me reasons to stay too. Like what? Marcus thought about the question. About all the ways this woman had surprised him, challenged him, forced him to see past his own anger, like showing me that people can change. That the person who signs a termination paper isn't necessarily the same person who shows up when things fall apart. That sometimes the worst moments in our lives are just the beginning of something better. Victoria leaned her head against his shoulder. I still don't know if I deserve any of this. The second chance. The partnership. You. Maybe nobody deserves anything. Maybe we just get what we get and try to make the most of it. Is that your philosophy? It's what I've learned from being a single father, from burying my wife, from losing everything and having to start over. Marcus put his arm around her. You don't get the life you deserve. You get the life you build. And you build it with the people who are willing to build it with you. Then let's build something, Victoria said. Something that matters, something that lasts, something that makes all of this worth it. The Phoenix Response Center. That, and more. A life. A family. A future. Marcus looked at her. This woman who had cost him his career, saved his purpose, threatened his daughter, become his partner. The complications of their story would take years to untangle. Maybe they never would be fully resolved, but that was okay. Life wasn't about resolving complications. It was about facing them together. Partners, he said again, the word taking on new meaning. Partners, she agreed. And somewhere in the apartment behind them, two little girls slept peacefully dreaming of the family they were becoming and the future they would build together. One day at a time. 6 months had passed since Charles Mitchell's conviction, and the Phoenix Response Center was finally taking shape. Marcus stood in the main training room, watching workers install the last of the safety equipment. What had once been an abandoned community center was now transforming into something meaningful. Classrooms, simulation areas, medical training stations, offices where workers could report violations without fear of retaliation. Dad? Maya's voice echoed through the space. She ran toward him. Olivia right behind her, both girls clutching papers covered in colorful drawings. What do you have there, baby girl? We made a logo, for the center. Maya held up her artwork proudly. A phoenix rising from flames, surrounded by people holding hands. Underneath, in careful letters, anyone can save someone. Olivia helped with the colors, Maya added. She's really good at colors. Marcus knelt down, studying the drawing with the seriousness it deserved. This is perfect. You know what I think we should frame this and put it in the lobby. Really? Olivia's eyes went wide. Like real artists. Real artists, because that's what you are. Victoria appeared from the office area, tablet in hand, looking exhausted but alive, in a way Marcus hadn't seen before. The past months had changed. Her stripped away the corporate armor revealed the woman underneath. The contractor says we're on schedule for the opening next month, she reported. And I just got confirmation from the Department of Labor. They're sending a representative to the grand opening. Government approval. Never thought I'd be excited about that, Victoria smiled. Times change. People change. Some people, most people, when they're given the chance. The girls had run off to explore their laughter, bouncing off the walls of the building they were helping to create. Marcus watched them go, something warm spreading through his chest. They're getting close, Victoria observed. Maya and Olivia, like sisters. They've been through things together that most adults never experience. That creates bonds. Is that what happened with us? Marcus turned to look at her. What do you mean? We went through something terrible together. Danger, fear, almost losing our children. Victoria's voice was careful, measured. I keep wondering if what I feel is real or if it's just trauma bonding. What do you feel? Victoria hesitated. This was new territory for her. Vulnerability, honesty, letting someone see past the walls she'd built. I feel like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. Like everything that happened, the attack, the investigation, even the years before, when I was making all those mistakes, it was leading here. To this place. To you. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. I spent 2 years hating you. Blaming you for everything that went wrong in my life. When I saw you bleeding in that parking garage, part of me thought about walking away. Letting someone else deal with it. Why didn't you? Because that's not who I am. And because Maya was watching. Watching. Not literally, but in my head, she's always watching. Everything I do, every choice I make, I ask myself what she would think, what lesson she would learn. Marcus squeezed Victoria's hand. If I had walked away from you that night, I would have taught her that some people aren't worth saving, that our principles have limits, that we only help the ones who deserve it. And you couldn't do that. No, I couldn't. Victoria stepped closer, close enough that he could smell her shampoo, feel the warmth of her body. I'm glad you didn't walk away. So am I. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Then Maya's voice shattered it. Dad, come look. There's a bird's nest in the corner. Marcus laughed, the tension breaking. Duty calls. Always. They went to investigate the bird's nest together, the 4 of them clustering around a small construction of twigs and feathers, tucked into a gap in the wall. Can we keep it? Olivia asked. It's not ours to keep, Victoria explained gently. It belongs to the birds, but we can make sure nobody disturbs it while they're raising their babies. Like a safe house, Maya said. Like where we stayed when the bad men were looking for us. Marcus and Victoria exchanged a glance. The girls rarely mentioned those terrifying days directly, but the experience had clearly left its mark. Exactly like that, Marcus said. Everyone deserves a safe place, even birds. That's what this building is going to be, right, Dad? A safe place for people. That's exactly what it's going to be. Maya nodded with satisfaction. Good, I like that. The weeks leading up to the grand opening were a blur of activity. Patricia, who had risked everything to help expose Mitchell, joined the center's staff as Director of Worker Advocacy. David Chen, the technician, Marcus had saved years ago, became head of the practical training program teaching workers how to identify hazards and protect themselves. Elena Rodriguez emerged from hiding to serve as a consultant, her expertise in medical device safety proving invaluable. Even Jake Torres found ways to help connecting the center with FBI resources for workers who needed to report serious violations. One by one, the people who had been crushed by the system Marcus and Victoria were fighting found their way to the Phoenix Response Center. Former Sterling Tech employees, whistleblowers from other companies, workers who had been injured, silenced, or ignored. "We're not just training people," Victoria said one evening, reviewing applications for the center's programs. "We're building a movement." "That scares some people." "Good, it should. The ones it scares are the ones who have something to hide." Marcus was reviewing security plans for the grand opening when his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered warily. "Mr. Thompson." A woman's voice, nervous. "My name is Sandra Mitchell. I'm Charles Mitchell's wife." Marcus's entire body went rigid. "What do you want?" "To apologize, and to help if you'll let me." "Help how?" Charles kept records. At home. Things even the FBI didn't find. Offshore accounts, names of people who helped him, evidence that could bring down the entire network, not just my husband. Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I have 2 daughters, teenagers, and I've spent 20 years pretending I didn't know what my husband was doing." Sandra's voice cracked. "I can't keep pretending. I can't let my girls grow up thinking that silence is acceptable, that looking the other way is okay." "Where is this evidence?" "I'll bring it to you. Tomorrow. At the center." Marcus weighed the risks. This could be a trap. Mitchell still had allies, people who might want revenge. But it could also be exactly what Sandra claimed, a mother trying to make things right. "Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Come alone." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for giving me the chance." Marcus hung up and immediately called Victoria. "We may have a problem or an opportunity. I'm not sure which." Sandra Mitchell arrived the next morning with a small suitcase and the haunted expression of someone who had finally stopped running from the truth. "I found these in Charles's home office, behind a false wall." She handed the suitcase to Marcus. Financial records, communication logs, names of everyone who helped him cover up the safety violations. Marcus opened the case. Inside were dozens of files, external hard drives, and a leather notebook filled with handwritten entries. "This is everything. Everything he tried to hide." Victoria had been watching from across the room. She approached slowly, her expression unreadable. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Victoria Sterling." "I know who you are." "Your husband tried to kill me. He kidnapped my daughter." Sandra's face crumpled. I know what he did, and I know that nothing I say can make that right." She took a shaky breath. "But my daughters need to see that there's another way, that you can stand up against evil even when it's in your own family, even when it costs you everything." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she extended her hand. "Thank you for coming forward. What you're doing takes courage." Sandra grasped her hand like a lifeline. "What happens now?" "Now we make sure none of this was for nothing." The evidence Sandra provided led to 17 additional arrests, including 3 members of Sterling Tech's board who had actively participated in the cover-ups. Congressional hearings were convened. Regulatory reforms were proposed. The Phoenix Response Center became the face of a national conversation about corporate accountability. Through it all, Marcus and Victoria worked side-by-side, partners in every sense of the word. Their relationship had evolved gradually, without dramatic declarations or romantic gestures. It was built on shared purpose, mutual respect, and the daily choice to show up for each other and their daughters. One evening, 3 months after the center's successful opening, Marcus found Victoria sitting alone in the memorial garden they had created behind the building. Small plaques honored those who had died from safety violations. The 47 victims of the medical device failures, the workers killed in the Texas explosion, the nameless test subjects from the Phoenix Protocol. "You okay?" he asked, sitting beside her. "I come here when I need to remember why we're doing this. The reminders help. They keep me honest. Every time I'm tempted to cut a corner to prioritize efficiency over thoroughness, I look at these names and remember what happens when we lose sight of what matters. Marcus read some of the names. James Patterson, 34. Maria Gonzalez, 52. Thomas Chen Jr., 28. Real people, real families, real lives cut short. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't started investigating? If you just let it go? Victoria nodded slowly. All the time. More people would have died. Mitchell would still be running his operation, and I would have gone on pretending I didn't know. But you didn't pretend. No. Thanks to you. Me. You were the first person to ever tell me the truth without worrying about the consequences. 2 years ago when I fired you. Safety is about people, not paperwork. I didn't understand what you meant then. I do now. Marcus remembered that day. The anger, the humiliation, the certainty that his career was over. I said a lot of things that day that weren't very professional. You said things that needed to be said, things no one else was willing to say. Victoria turned to face him. You know what I remember most. You looked me in the eye and told me that someday I would understand. Like you knew. Like you could see this future even when I couldn't. I didn't see any future. I was just angry. Maybe. But you were also right. Victoria reached out, touching his face. You've been right about a lot of things. About the company. About Mitchell. About what matters. I've been wrong about things too. Like what? Marcus thought about the hatred he'd carried, the assumptions he'd made, the walls he'd built. I was wrong about you. I thought you were just another corporate executive who didn't care about the people beneath her. I thought you'd signed my termination without a second thought. I did at first. I know, but that wasn't the whole story. You were being manipulated, used, kept in the dark about things that should have been impossible to hide. That doesn't excuse what I did. No, but it explains it, and understanding someone is the first step toward forgiving them. Victoria's eyes glistened. You forgive me? I'm working on it. Marcus smiled slightly. Some days are easier than others. That's more than I deserve. Maybe, but it's what I want to give you. They sat together in the memorial garden as the sun set, two people who had found each other through chaos and pain and emerged stronger on the other side. The first anniversary of the Phoenix Response Center's opening was marked with a community celebration. Workers who had completed training programs returned to share their success stories. Companies that had implemented the center's accountability frameworks reported 0 serious injuries in the previous year. Government officials praised the initiative as a model for nationwide reform. But the most meaningful moment came from Maya. She had insisted on making a speech, her first public speaking experience at 9 years old. Marcus had tried to discourage her, worried she would be overwhelmed, but Maya had been adamant. I have something important to say, Dad. People need to hear it. So he stood in the back of the room with Victoria and Olivia, watching his daughter walk to the podium with the confidence of someone 3 times her age. Hi, my name is Maya Thompson. My dad is one of the people who started this place. The audience, a mixture of workers, officials, and journalists, fell silent. A lot of people ask me what it's like having a hero for a dad. But I don't think my dad is a hero. Not the way they mean in movies, anyway. Marcus felt his throat tighten. A hero in the movies is someone who has superpowers or special training or magic weapons. They save the world by being better than everyone else. But that's not what my dad is. Maya looked directly at him, her serious eyes finding his across the crowded room. My dad is just a person who doesn't walk away. When someone needs help, he helps them. When something is wrong, he tries to make it right. When he makes a promise, he keeps it. He doesn't have superpowers, he just has showing up every day, no matter how hard it gets. The room was completely silent. My mom died when I was 4. I don't remember her very well, but I remember being scared. Scared that my dad would leave too. Scared that I would be alone. But he never left. He showed up every morning and every night and every moment in between. Even when he was sad. Even when he was tired. Even when things were really, really hard. Victoria reached for Marcus's hand. He barely noticed. That's what this place is about. Not heroes, just people who show up, people who don't walk away, people who see someone in trouble and think, I should help, instead of, someone else will handle it. Maya's voice grew stronger. My dad taught me that you don't have to be special to save someone. You don't have to be brave or strong or smart. You just have to be there. You just have to try. You just have to not walk away. She held up a small orange paper crane, the same symbol Olivia had given them after the warehouse rescue. This is what my dad calls a phoenix. It's a bird that gets burned up but comes back stronger. That's what happened to all of us. We got burned up by bad things, but we didn't stay burned. We came back. We built something new, something better. Maya placed the paper crane on the podium. Anyone can save someone. That's what we believe here. And I hope that someday when you see someone who needs help, you'll remember that you don't have to be a hero. You just have to show up. She stepped back from the microphone, and the room erupted in applause. Marcus couldn't see through his tears. He pushed through the crowd and swept Maya into his arms, holding her so tightly she squeaked in protest. Dad, you're crushing me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He pulled back, looking at her face. Baby girl that was? I don't have words. Was it okay I practiced with Olivia like 100 times? It was more than okay. It was perfect. Victoria and Olivia had caught up to them. Olivia was bouncing with excitement. She did so good right. I told her she would be great, but she didn't believe me. You were both right, Victoria said, pulling Maya into a hug. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Really. Really. And I think we found our official motto. Anyone can save someone. It's perfect. That night after the celebration wound down and the last guest departed, the four of them sat together in the training room that would soon be filled with workers learning to protect themselves and each other. 1 year, Victoria said. Can you believe it's been a year since we opened? Feels longer, Marcus admitted, and shorter at the same time. That's because a lot happened. Maya was sitting on his lap, fighting to keep her eyes open after the excitement of the day. We saved people and caught bad guys and built a whole building. When you put it that way, it sounds like a movie. It should be a movie. I'd watch it. Me too, Olivia added, but only if there's a happy ending. Victoria pulled her daughter close. I think we're working on the happy ending right now. What do you mean? Victoria looked at Marcus, a question in her eyes. He nodded. Girls, we have something to tell you, Victoria said carefully. Marcus and I have been talking, and we've decided... You're getting married. Maya interrupted, suddenly wide awake. I knew it, Olivia. I told you. Marcus laughed despite himself. How did you know? Because you look at each other the way married people look at each other. And because you've been spending lots of time together when you think we're not watching. Are we that obvious? Yes, both girls said in unison. Victoria shook her head, smiling. Well, yes, we're getting married, if that's okay with both of you. Obviously it's okay, Maya said. This means Olivia is going to be my real sister, right? Stepsister technically, but real sister, Maya insisted. We've been through too much together to be anything else. Olivia was crying happy tears, the kind that came from finally getting something you'd wanted so badly you were afraid to admit it. I always wanted a sister. And a dad. A real one who shows up and doesn't leave. Marcus pulled her into the hug, holding both girls against his chest. I'm not going anywhere. Not ever. You're stuck with me now. Promise. There it was. That word again. The weight of it settling on his shoulders like a familiar burden. Promise. The wedding took place 3 months later in the courtyard of the Phoenix Response Center. It wasn't large or elaborate, just the people who had become family through shared struggle and survival. Patricia stood as Victoria's witness. Jake stood as Marcus's best man. David Chen and Elena Rodriguez sat in the front row, both of them living proof that justice was possible, even when the odds seemed impossible. Maya and Olivia served as flower girls, walking down the aisle with matching dresses and matching grins, scattering rose petals with more enthusiasm than precision. The ceremony itself was brief. Neither Marcus nor Victoria wanted elaborate vows or lengthy rituals. What they had was built on actions, not words. But when the officiant asked if they had anything they wanted to say to each other, Marcus surprised everyone, including himself. I spent most of my life believing that love was something you lost. My parents split when I was 12. I watched my brothers cycle through marriages like they were changing clothes. When I met Karen Maya's mother, I thought maybe I'd broken the pattern. But then she got sick, and I lost her too. His voice steadied, even as his eyes glistened. After Karen died, I closed that part of myself off. I told myself that Maya was enough, that I didn't need anyone else, that opening myself up again would just lead to more pain. Victoria reached for his hand. He held on. Then, I met you. And I hated you. I hated what you represented, the system that had chewed me up and spit me out, the corporate machine that treated people like numbers on a spreadsheet. Marcus, let me finish. He squeezed her hand. I hated you because it was easier than admitting I was scared. Scared to feel something again. Scared to trust someone with my heart after it had been broken so many times. What changed? You did. I watched you risk everything, your company, your reputation, your life to do what was right. I watched you put your daughter first, even when it terrified you. I watched you admit you were wrong and commit to making it better. Marcus looked around at the people gathered in the courtyard. Patriots, friends, survivors. I watched you become the person I always hoped existed, but was afraid to believe in. And somewhere along the way, I stopped hating you. I started admiring you. And then I fell in love with you. Completely. Stupidly. Against every instinct I had. Victoria laughed through her tears. That might be the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me. I'm not a romantic man. But I am an honest one, and the honest truth is that I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if we'll succeed or fail. I don't know if the work we're doing will change anything in the long run. But I know that whatever happens, I want to face it with you, because you make me better. You make me braver. You make me believe that maybe, just maybe, the good guys can win. Victoria wiped her eyes, then took a deep breath. I had a speech prepared, something elegant and sophisticated. But after that, I don't think elegant and sophisticated is what you need to hear. What do I need to hear? That I love you. Not because of what you did for me in that parking garage. Not because of the dangers we faced together. Not because you helped me save my company, or my daughter, or my life. Then why? Because of who you are when no one is watching. Because you make pancakes for dinner when Maya needs cheering up. Because you read bedtime stories with different voices for each character. Because you still carry a first aid kit everywhere you go, just in case someone needs help. Victoria stepped closer, their foreheads almost touching. I love you because you're the kind of man who sees someone in trouble and runs toward them instead of away. Because you believe that everyone deserves to be saved, even the people who don't deserve it. Because you taught me that strength isn't about power, it's about showing up. Victoria. I'm not finished. She smiled through her tears. I love you because you gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one. Because you saw past the CEO and the mistakes and the failures to find the woman underneath. Because you helped me become someone I can actually be proud of. She took both his hands in hers. And I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that love, of showing up every day no matter how hard it gets, of building something that matters with you and beside you. The officiant cleared his throat. I think we can skip to the good part. Do you, Marcus Thompson, take Victoria Sterling to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. And do you, Victoria Sterling, take Marcus Thompson to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Maya and Olivia cheered as their parents kissed, the sound of their joy echoing off the walls of the building they had all helped create. Afterward, while the small reception continued around them, Marcus found himself standing in the memorial garden, looking at the names of those who hadn't survived. Victoria joined him, slipping her hand into his. No regrets. None. He turned to face her. You. Just one. What? That it took me so long to become the person I should have been from the beginning. All those years I wasted chasing the wrong things. All the people I could have helped if I'd just seen what was right in front of me. You can't change the past. No, but I can honor it by making sure the future is different. Marcus looked at the names on the memorial plaques. James Patterson, Maria Gonzalez, Thomas Chen Jr., all the others. You think they would approve of what we've built? I think they would want us to keep building, to never stop, to make sure that what happened to them never happens to anyone else. Then that's what we'll do. Victoria leaned her head against his shoulder. Partners. Partners, now and always. From across the courtyard, Maya called out, Dad! Victoria! Come cut the cake. Olivia says she gets the first piece because she's the youngest, but I say we should share the first piece because we're sisters now. Marcus laughed, a real laugh full of joy and hope, and the knowledge that somehow, against all odds, he had found his way to exactly where he was supposed to be. Coming! They walked back to their daughters, to their friends, to the life they had built from the wreckage of everything that had tried to destroy them. The Phoenix Response Center stood behind them, lights glowing in the evening darkness. A beacon for anyone who needed help, who needed hope, who needed to believe that the world could be better. And in the memorial garden, the wind stirred gently, rustling the small paper cranes the girls had hung from the branches of a newly planted tree. Anyone can save someone. That was the truth Marcus Thompson had learned in a parking garage, holding a woman he hated, listening to a child scream for help. That was the truth Victoria Sterling had discovered when she finally stopped looking away from the darkness in her own company. That was the truth they would spend the rest of their lives teaching, one worker at a time, one family at a time, one day at a time. Because heroes aren't born with superpowers or special training or magic weapons. Heroes are just people who refuse to walk away. And in the end, that's all any of us can be. People who show up, people who try, people who, against all evidence to the contrary, still believe that love and courage and simple human decency can change the world. Marcus Thompson believed it. Victoria Sterling believed it. And now, thanks to them, thousands of others were starting to believe it too. That was their legacy. That was their victory. That was the story of how a black single-dad Navy SEAL mechanic saved a millionaire CEO, not just from the men who attacked her in a parking garage, but from the person she used to be. And how she saved him right back.